Today, we will be talking about 1991's Beauty and the Beast. The main characters of this show all have signs of portraying gender norms that can be harmful to our society, and despite actually doing an alright job of attempting to stray from these stereotypes, they have the opportunity to break these social rules and end up doing very little to actually accomplish this. Let's talk about specific characters. First, we're going to talk about Gaston. Gaston is the typical man's man. He is large, muscular, has a deep voice, drinks beer, and has tons of women hanging off him at all times. He is also portrayed as a shallow, self-conceited male who is literally only concentrated on whether he can get with a woman that he thinks is hot. Gaston's position in this movie, seeing Belle as just some object that he can scoop up and do anything that he wants with, is described well in a tongue-in-cheek feminist article by Judy Brady titled, "I Want a Wife." In the film, Gaston talks about Belle serving his needs after they get married and how she would take care of his, yes, he says his, kids. Brady writes, quote, "I want a wife who will take care of my physical needs. I want a wife who will keep my house clean. I want a wife who will pick up after my children, a wife who will pick up after me. I want a wife who will keep my clothes clean, ironed, mended, replaced when need be." Unquote. To me, Gaston is pretty much perfectly embodied by not only this quote from Brady, but really the entire article. The article mockingly talks about how housewives' tasks include taking care of kids, cleaning up the house, cleaning up after their husband, being open to sexual needs, not being in need of attention when the husband doesn't want to talk, and keeping track of appointments. These characteristics all clearly embody gender roles, even though in a joking or mocking way. But when young people are watching these Disney movies, they might see these gender roles taking place, and it will eventually just start to become what is normal for them. In this case specifically, plenty of young men, or boys, will see this, and after constantly seeing Gaston being represented as a strong and loved by women man, they will strive to be as masculine as he is. Additionally, I feel that Disney missed a huge opportunity here when they could have done a better job of deconstructing these gender roles. With the role of men in today's society, it is very hard for young boys to feel confident in expressing themselves, especially when they are feeling sad or alone. These problems are represented in the 2015 documentary film The Mask You Live In by Jennifer Siebel Newsom. Psychologist, author, and educator William Pollack states, quote, "The way boys are brought up makes them hide all their natural, vulnerable, and empathetic feelings behind a mask of masculinity," unquote. Gaston is constantly loud, obnoxious, and very artificial throughout the film. You never see him really crack emotionally, as he is only ever portrayed as happy, angry, or thinking of sex or beautiful women. And, despite mocking Gaston consistently for the way he acts, there isn't any alternative given to men on how to act by the film. By not only including Gaston in the movie with his many stereotypes, but also glorifying him by having nearly every character in the movie look up to him, young boys are given the impression that he is the, quote, ideal man, unquote. Now let's take a look at Belle. When it comes to Belle, I think Disney did a much better job of at least attempting to stray away from common gender norms. She is, in some ways, a stereotypical woman, as she is simple and well-behaved while putting others before herself. However, Disney actually made Belle one of their most non-conforming women, even though that doesn't really mean or say very much, because of the fact that she shows great passion in books and gaining intelligence throughout the film, which is quite uncommon regarding female characters. And, more importantly, she passes the Bechdel test. The Bechdel test uses 3 different criteria to see if a movie has fairly and fully developed a female character. The criteria are: 1. The film has 2 named women who, 2, talk to each other about something that is, 3, not a man. There are plenty of named women in the film, and after being captured by the Beast, Belle has a conversation with Miss Teapot. After asking about where she was and what to do, Miss Teapot responds, quote, "Cheer up, child. It'll turn out all right in the end. You'll see. Oh, listen to me. Jabbering on while there's some supper to get on the table," unquote. Even though it took quite a long time to find quote, that doesn't reference the Beast or Gaston or her dad, at least passing the Bechdel test, no matter how close or questionable it might have been, is still a step in the right direction for giving women their own characters in movies, even though this quote still ends up using some female stereotypes regarding the making of dinner and doing household chores. Additionally, Belle has the classic woman look that is seen literally everywhere in pop culture. She is noticeably thin, with long, gleaming brown hair, beautiful and pretty much perfect skin, a soft voice, and little to no observable muscle. Having these kinds of images being shown to young girls whose minds are being influenced by everything around them is quite dangerous and can cause lifetime effects, specifically and especially the body shape. As Naomi Wolf, author of the novel The Beauty Myth, writes, quote, "A culture fixated on female thinness is not an obsession about female beauty, but an obsession about female obedience," unquote. Wolf makes a great point here, as not only does the flat stomach of female characters give young girls an almost impossible body standard to live up to, but it also relates very closely to the obedience that women should have from dieting. As Wolf puts it, quote, "Dieting is the most potent political sedative in women's history. A quietly mad population is a tractable one," unquote. Wolf is trying to say that when women are forced to diet and conform to this kind of body, they are easy to control and influence, giving men the chance to shape society how they want to. So, even though Disney definitely made some progress on the way they portrayed Belle in the film, there's definitely tons of room to grow. Finally, let's talk about how this affects our culture. In conclusion, due to the fact that Gaston is a perfect example of horrible male stereotypes that can lead young men into a culture of toxic masculinity, and that Belle, while having some redeeming qualities, promotes young women to look and act a certain way, I am now able to see the huge impact pop culture can have on men maintaining institutional power. Despite Gaston and Belle both having stereotypes about them, Gaston's stereotypes relate more to strength and confidence and power, while Belle's stereotypes relate more to being small and obedient. As a company that markets regularly towards children worldwide, Disney has an obligation to do whatever they can to enforce a culture that gives equal opportunity to everyone and doesn't force either gender to be put in a box of how they may act, look, feel, and express themselves.